Are y'all getting sick of seeing this damn thing yet? The Ozark Trail Sonder made a lot of noise in the budget knife world. And that's because it offers so much that we just couldn't believe was available for a $10 knife you could walk into Walmart and buy. That's right. I mean, if you go back to 2008, 2009 knife tube and told anybody in the scene at that point that they could walk into Walmart and buy for $10 a knife with a D2 steel blade, a Benchmade style crossbar lock, back then we just called them axis locks, ceramic bearings on the pivot point, or any kind of damn ball bearing on the pivot point, a looped over clip, and solid lockup for $10, we would have told you that you were high. I mean, you got to remember that back in like 2008, 2009 knife tube, what was it, the Bird Caracara and Metalark that were like the pinnacle of budget knives? They were really impressive for the time because they were in this newfangled steel 8CR 13 MOV that was very comparable to the Japanese AUS 8, which was considered a medium end steel at that point in time. It was very commonly used on Spydercos, like actual Spydercos, for a long time. Okay, 440C was what Benchmade had used for the longest time. And 8CR 13 MOV was not that far removed from those steels. Those knives had phosphor bronze washers. That was huge. It was huge because at the time, Teflon was common on budget knives. Phosphor bronze was reserved for like premium stuff. So the idea of getting a D2 steel blade knife with an axis style lock that was stonewashed and a looped over deep carry clip for $10? Nah. With ball bearings in the pivot? No. We would have told you you were smoking weed. This thing would be easily guesstimated, if you just remove that Ozark Trail logo, to be like a $70 or $80 knife back in 2008 or 2009. But what if I told you that we could get everything the Ozark Trail Sonder is offering us these days, but it's a bit better? And it lets us get away from this Ozark Trail logo that so many people are sick of seeing and having to hear about. Well, we can. And that is the Mossy Oak, model 25033. There's also the 25034, identical knives but in different colors. Name sucks. We're going to call this the Wonder. This is the Mossy Oak Wonder. And it does every single thing that the Sonder does, but better. Okay? And it's only $17. $16.99 on Amazon or at Walmart's website. What a damn time to be a knife enthusiast. And I'm serious, it's incredible to me that we're getting this much knife for the money. Because while granted, I had 3 samples of the Sonder to test with. I gave the green and black one away just recently to a buddy of mine who really liked it. Still have the orange and black version and then the black and silver version. I only bought one of these Mossy Oaks, so I suppose it's possible their quality might be more varied as well. But if this is representative of the knife as a whole, then it's really fantastic for the money. $17 for this is absurdly good. Let's talk about it, all right? So you can see why I'm using the Sonder as a way to introduce this. It's very similar in a lot of ways. Not so much design. The handle designs are different. The blade shapes are different. Okay, it's a different overall design of knife, but it's occupying the same space. It's a budget knife, sub $20 with a crossbar lock, a D2 steel blade, a looped over clip. It's definitely trying to compete with the Ozark Trail, and it does a very good job. Okay, we have a 3.2-inch blade. They say a 3-inch blade. It measured at 3.18 something for me. I'm just going to say 3.2 inches. Okay, so a 3.2-inch blade made out of D2. Now, it's not going to be true D2. It's not American D2 or German D2 or Japanese D2 or all of those other steels have a different technical number designation. True D2 is American made, but this is the Chinese equivalent, CR12 MOV. Okay, just like the Ozark Trail, just like a lot of stuff you're seeing from Gonzo and SRM and so on and so forth. The question is, how good is Mossy Oak's formulation of D2, or whoever's putting these together for Mossy Oak? Well, for those unfamiliar, I do a very simple cut test with all of my knives. I carry and use them for actual practical everyday carry to see how they feel in hand and how well they perform in the average everyday carry cutting task. But I also will take any lower to medium end blade steel through 75 cuts through medium thickness cardboard, and higher end steels are subjected to 150. And any knife will pass so long as it still has a paper slicing edge by the end of it. Doesn't have to be super clean as long as it's slicing and not tearing It can catch and snag and tear a little bit, but I mean, it can't just rip it or bend it or fold it. You know, it has to actually slice. So how did the D2 blade on this Mossy Oak do? It catches a little bit. You can see it's not the cleanest cuts in the world. Okay, caught a little bit there. But it slices. For a $17 knife, going through 75 cuts through medium thickness cardboard and still having a functional edge, I mean, that's way more use than realistic, common day-to-day EDC is going to put on a knife for the average person not going out of their way to use knives more often than they need to. So I call that pretty damn good. All right, the blade is hollow ground from about the midsection down. It's a nice drop point with a lot of belly, bringing in the Sonders by comparison. This is a little bit more spear-like. This is definitely a wide belly drop point, and it slices really, really well. Okay, this breezed through cardboard like it was no problem. The tip is sharp, but not delicate. See if I can get that to focus. Bring this on. It is sharp, but not delicate, and it penetrates quite well. Clamshell packaging, bubble mailers, like I always say, the typical common everyday carry cutting tasks, the tip has held up. It's pointy, it's not too brittle, it penetrates well. All right, the blade is stonewashed. That's another feature that we used to only see on super high-end knives. Stonewashing used to be a thing reserved for like $70, $80, $100 knives. Okay, getting a stonewash blade today on a budget knife still amazes me. It's fairly common, but I love to see it. It's a very attractive finish. And I should have cleaned that blade off after the cardboarding. I was just too excited to do some knife reviews. I'm not really sure what order my reviews are going to post in, but, you know, you'll see them whenever they come out, however they come out. At the end of the day, this is a great blade. It cuts really well. I haven't sharpened it yet, but I imagine it'll touch up just as easily as any other Chinese D2 that I've used, especially because I'd say this is on the medium side of the heat treat. It's not super crazy. It's not like offensively low. I would guesstimate this is probably 58 to 59, which is below the standard spec for D2. But for the price, I've got no complaints with it. Comes out via dual thumb studs. You can see the design there. Very common step design. And it comes out fast. I mean, there's no need for any wrist action with this. Comes out super, super quick. Locks up very, very tight. I have no play up and down. No play side to side. And we could easily adjust it at the pivot point, which is dual-sided if we needed to. By the way, the centering on the knife is perfect. So I don't need to tweak it to get it perfectly centered. Worth noting because this particular Sonders of mine lists quite heavily to that left-hand liner. Okay, not so much with the Mossy Oak. Pretty incredible at this price point. In the pivot, we do have a ball bearing system, so it is nice and smooth. And the axis lock or crossbar lock works incredibly well. I don't have any issue with lock bounce on this. Something I haven't talked about with enough crossbar locks, but it's a big deal for a lot of people to have a crossbar lock that's not going to bounce back on them when they swing it shut. And this has literally never bounced back on me. I have never had lock bounce. To demonstrate that, here is a still awesome knife. This is a Schrade Old Timer 132 OTF, standing for Old Timer Frontier. Great knife, but this thing has lock bounce like you wouldn't believe. It's the worst example I've ever seen of it. Okay, just trying to swing this thing shut with its crossbar lock, it bounces off more often than not. Even when I try to release it on time, I'm often still bouncing. With this Mossy Oak, I've never once had lock bar bounce. Okay, with the Sonders, I don't have it very often. I have had it. There you go. I can get it. So better crossbar lock than what the Sonders are providing on average. Really fantastic stuff. Handle is glass-filled nylon, 4.3 inches long. Okay, and it's got this little texturing on here. It's not bad. Provides a little bit of grip, but the rest of the handle is very slick. And the jimping top side, by the way, very functional. Okay, very, very functional jimping, locks in well, and the knife is ergonomic. Okay, the glass-filled nylon is very well rounded on the edges, which means this thing is just super comfortable in the hand. Pocket clip does not flare up on the end here, so it does not cause a hot spot like it does on some knives. Love to see that. And I mentioned before that it comes in different colors. This is the blue and stonewash. There is also an orange and black version where you have an orange handle and a black coated blade. That's the more common version of the two. I just liked this one. Okay, I wanted some more color variety, and I don't know, I thought blue and stonewash looked really, really good. But the handle is very comfortable. It's very functional. Okay, no hot spots in use whatsoever. We lock in well thanks to that jimping. It is fully steel lined, as you can see, and heavily skeletonized, even more so than the Sonder was. For a way of reference, Sonder, traditional circle drill kind of method to reduce the weight. Here you can see they've really laser cut big rectangles of steel out of the liners. And that helps us to save on weight quite a bit. Okay, how much does the knife weigh? Well, we got to break out the drug dealer scale to find that out. And I did choose just not to grab the packaging for this. I feel like most of y'all don't care when I do that, and I didn't want to make a trip to the shed just to grab it. Okay, why is this showing 0.2 ounces by default? Uh-oh. Something wrong with my scale? There we go. 2.85 ounces. We'll just say 2.8 ounces. That's pretty damn light. That is pretty damn light, so it's very carryable. It's not the thinnest knife in the world, but it's not fat. I would say it's, you know, same thickness as most other knives on the market. And you can see it obviously is a flow-through construction, so it's very easy to clean out there, which I love to see. I mentioned the pocket clip doesn't flare up on the backside, causing a hot spot, but you can see it also doesn't flare up towards the end here. And this is something that I talk about often. Where did I put that Sonder? Here we are. See how with the Sonder it flares out toward the end? What that does is causes the knife to potentially get snagged on things, snag on seat belts, scratch car doors, pop out of your pocket potentially. With this, it is angled downwards perfectly. I love to see it. It's not a perfect clip. We have some mushroom capping on those screws, so if you have really thick pants, this might have a hard time attaching. And the tension on mine isn't as tight as I would like. I could take it off and bend it to get more tension, but it's a little on the flimsier side. Not too bad, but I definitely prefer the tension on the Sonder. Could be an isolated incident, but I wanted to point it out because it is the sample I have in front of me. Luckily, it can be reversed for left-hand carry, making this a fully ambidextrous knife for any lefties out there. And let's break out the cutlery lever pocket and show off how this thing carries. Okay, just like so. Not a true deep carry, but it carries exactly how I like. It leaves me with just a little bit to grab onto to extract the knife. And we do have a nice large lanyard bail there to attach a lanyard of any kind that we would like, if we chose to do so. So I would say the clip is honestly pretty satisfactory. I would like to see a bit more tension, but that's about it. I still like it better overall than the Sonder. I don't mean to keep comparing it, but I feel like comparison is inevitable. Okay, especially whenever this knife has become so ubiquitous and strongly tied to the budget knife world. So if I don't bring it up, I'm sure someone in the comment section would ask, well, how does it compare to the Sonder? The answer is favorably. I've yet to find a category where I feel like the Sonder does better than the Mossy Oak, aside from clip tension, which again could be a one-off incident. And even if it's not, I can fix it easily by just bending that clip for more tension. Mentioned it before, $17 price tag. 17 bucks. Think about that for a second. Okay, really, if I mentioned 2008, that's when I got into the budget knife scene, or the knife scene in general. Back then, we were looking at things that had 440A blades and AUS 6 blades for a budget knife on average. HCR 13 was premium in the budget knife world. D2 was reserved for knives that were $100 plus. Now, granted, again, real American D2 will outperform this. This isn't even on the best end of a Chinese D2 heat treat, but even still, it beats HCR 13 MOV, and the idea of getting any kind of D2 for this cheap would have been laughable back then. Ball bearings, we didn't even really see ball bearings on pivot points until much later, and they were very premium. They were extremely premium. Okay, again, Teflon washers were commonplace for budget knives. Phosphor bronze was premium. And yeah, this has something better than phosphor bronze, arguably. This thing is an incredible deal for the money. Now, there's a lot of competitive options. Obviously, the Sonder makes its way in here. It's a competitive option. Chinese D2 steel, glass-filled nylon handles. You know all about the Sonder. It's a good competitive option for $10. You could almost buy two of these for one of these. So is this knife 70% better than the Sonder? I think so. I still love the Sonders for what they are, but I do think these are better knives. A lot of these competitive options you'll have seen coming. There's the Flitza 2580, 14C 28N steel, glass-filled nylon handles, loop over deep carry clip, very thin, no steel liner, so it's even lighter. Fantastic knife. Price point about $20. A little bit more expensive. Compares very favorably. I mentioned that Schrade Oldtimer 132 OTF earlier. 7CR 17 MOV steel. Handle is Luxwood synthetic and stainless steel. True deep carry clip on that one. Crossbar lock as well. Same with this, crossbar lock. Price tag, I think, is about $26. So, a fair bit more. Great knife, though. Much heavier. How about a different Schrade? This is the Divergent, part of their Delta class of knives. AUS 8 steel, G10 handles, crossbar lock. Not a loop over clip, but carries about the same depth as any of the other loop overs here, aside from the Oldtimer. Very comfortable in the hand. I think these sell for about $30. So it's more expensive. I will say it's a better knife. I do like this knife better than the Mossy Oak, but it's almost twice the price. How about this? SOG Terminus. XR lock, cryoed D2 steel, stone washed. True loop over deep carry clip. Sharp corners on this G10 though, but the D2 does perform better. $55. You have to determine if it's worth all that extra money or not. And the last competitive option I'm going to bring in is not so much this exact knife, but it's the idea of this knife, and that is a real Benchmade Griptilian. Now, you could use the bug out or the mini Griptilian or whatever you want. This is an older one in 154 cm steel. But I bring this in because there were a lot of people who would argue that if you want a true crossbar lock experience, you just need to stick with Benchmade and ignore the imitators. And, you know, that's a fair perspective to have. The crossbar lock on this is really good. It's a little bit better than the Mossy Oak. Not by much, but it is admittedly a little bit better. Even the 154 cm of this older Griptilian slightly outcuts that Mossy Oak D2. Even though a really good D2 will outperform 154 cm, Benchmade's 154 cm was treated really, really well. This is only an average treat of D2, so this does outcut it. The current S30V versions would far outperform it. It's even better in the hand. Great, absolutely fantastic knife. But what do Griptilians run these days? Like $150? $160? Think about how many Mossy Oaks you could buy for that price point. This is a better knife, but is it that much better than this? I'll let you guys determine, but in my opinion, just as a user, I would say probably not. Love this Griptilian. I carry it a lot. I use it a lot, as you can see. But the price gap between it and the Mossy Oak can be very hard to justify, especially when this does incredibly well at its price point. And if you break it or lose it, you won't care. Okay, it's affordable. Hell, buy 5 of them, 6 of them, give them to friends, give them to coworkers. Keep one in your car, one on your desk, one in your work locker. They're fantastic knives for a great price, and in my opinion, do every single thing the Sonders does, just a little bit better.